Thank you for joining us today for the three-part webinar where we will dive into anything and everything you will need to know about the new Biofinity toric multifocal contact lenses from CooperVision. So let's dive in. I'm Steve Rosinski, an optometrist and Senior Manager, North American Professional and Academic Affairs at CooperVision. I will be your host throughout this three-part webinar. We are excited to announce the Biofinity toric multifocal lenses are now available to every eye care practitioner throughout the United States as of May 18, 2020. We realize with current challenges surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic that your office may still be closed or just starting to reopen. However, we wanted to continue with our launch plans to ensure this product is available for when you start seeing patients again. In the first section of this webinar, we talked to Dr. Lee Hall from CooperVision's R&D team to get a behind-the-scenes look at the development of Biofinity toric multifocal and learn more about the technology that powers the lens. The second section was all about fitting the lens. In this section, we talked about how Biofinity toric multifocal changes the landscape for fitting these traditionally more difficult to fit lenses. We dove into the fitting tips and walk you through the fitting guide so you are set up for success. And lastly, we will be talking to some of your peers about their experiences with Biofinity toric multifocal to this point and how the lens will fit into their practice. As I mentioned previously, we have some live feedback on initial impressions of the lens from practitioners that we want to share with you as part of our last chapter in this three-part webinar. Joining me today are Dr. Aaron Warner and Dr. Josh Rajasansi. Thank you both for participating in this. Let's start with some introductions.
Thanks, Steve. I'm Aaron Warner, and I practice in San Diego, California, and the small town of El Cajon. I'm super excited to be here with you and Josh today. A little bit of background on myself. In addition to the practice, I also serve as the Director of OD Learning and Development for Vision Source. I'm a fifth-generation optometrist. It was in my blood, and get the pleasure of practicing with Dad still, and learned a lot from him as well as my grandparents. And our practice practices full optometry, so lots of medical, lots of vision care, certainly a lot of contact lenses, and it's been neat to see the progression and development of contact lenses over the years working with Dad and now myself in the practice.
Thank you, Steve. I'm Josh Rajasansi, and I was born in England. And when I was a kid, my dad got a job outside of Toronto in a small town called Waterloo, where the esteemed University of Waterloo School of Optometry is. I went to optometry school at Indiana University, and I became fed up with the cold and the wet and the rain and the snow and the hot humidity and the mosquitoes and the bugs, and I decided I wanted warm and dry. And I moved to Phoenix after I finished school, and I practiced in a suburb called Gilbert. We opened a practice cold with a partner about 15 years ago, and the majority of our practice grew into contact lenses. In fact, over 60% of what we do is contacts. My favorite part of the eye is the cornea, and I also work one day a week with a corneal specialist group in the Phoenix area. And in particularly, I love the tough cases when it comes to contact lenses and the cornea.
Thank you again. So both Aaron and Josh have gotten their hands on Biofinity toric multifocal before the national launch, and we're going to dive into their feedback and experience with the lens. Okay, so first up, let's just quickly touch on your overall impression of the lens so far.
Thanks, Steve. I have been to a lot of weddings. I have a very large Indian family with many, many cousins. Most of the time when you go to a wedding, the food is great, and sometimes it's really good. Most of the time there's one sort of star of the food service. Sometimes the appetizers are really good and the desserts are just okay, and sometimes the desserts are incredible and the main course was just so-so. You know, you get the idea. The Biofinity multifocal toric is like taking the best parts of all the food for every wedding I've been to and putting it all together. you know, the best appetizers, the best main courses, the best tea service, the best desserts, the best kids meals, the best drinks, and serving it to 1,500 people. And yes, I've been to weddings with 1,500 people. My impression is I am astonished by this lens.
So I agree, this lens is very stable, and I'm not surprised because it's built on the Biofinity toric platform, which is an incredibly stable toric design, always has been. The multifocal design of the lens also works just like the Biofinity multifocal. And so you take the fantastic toric design, the fantastic multifocal design, put them together, and you've got a fantastic multifocal toric lens.
That's great feedback to hear from you at such an early stage in your experience with the lens. Okay, on to my next question. In your opinion, what do you feel is the best aspect of this lens?
Well, Steve, in most families, parents and grandparents will rarely pick a favorite child. They say, we love you all equally. In my family, that was not the case. We knew exactly who the favorites were growing up. It's hard to pick a favorite. You know, after some thought, it's the cylinder powers. From 75 all the way to 575, with 5-degree steps starting at 0.75 sil. That is amazing. And I guess I just picked a favorite child.
I've got 3 kids, and I'll go on record saying that I love them all equally. This lens is our peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It does exactly what we anticipate it to do and expect it to do based on its parents, the Biofinity toric and the Biofinity multifocal.
I love these analogies. I'm an OD myself, and I tend to agree that the range of this lens is so impressive, and the fact that CooperVision was able to create a lens of this caliber by combining 2 proven technologies from Biofinity toric and Biofinity multifocal. All right, next question. How does the Biofinity toric multifocal stack up to other lenses?
Thanks, Steve. I've always felt that when evaluating a patient that requires a multifocal toric lens, it is similar to a triathlon. All the parts have to work great to be a winner. You have to win in terms of the toric portion. You know, the sil range in this lens is in 5-degree steps, is like every batter hitting a home run. You know, I just switched sports, but that's okay. The multifocal portion has to give clear distance in near vision. And once again, the performance in this area has the most options compared to any other lens in the category. And it has to be comfortable. I mean, you can't run a marathon at the end of an Ironman if your shoes are not comfortable. The Biofinity material has proven record of great comfort and performance. You see how I came full circle with the sports there, Steve?
Thanks, Josh.
Love it. And I've completed 3 Ironmans, and I can attest that it is important to have your shoes comfortable at the end of that marathon. When it comes to comparing the Biofinity toric multifocal, I look at the ProClear multifocal toric. It was a good lens and we used it often, but that said, we prefer the enhanced comfort and performance of the Biofinity material, and the Biofinity toric was our go-to monthly toric lens. The Biofinity multifocal also held a strong place in our monthly multifocal quiver, and so it makes sense that the Biofinity multifocal toric really just takes that spot. The ultra multifocal toric is a solid lens and has performed well as well, and so we like having the different options. While we have more experience with that ultra multifocal toric, I really believe that the different designs will allow us to fit a wide range of patients with varying visual demands, and between the two, we can take care of all those patients who have that need.
Great feedback. Thank you both. So on to the next question. So earlier we talked about how toric multifocal lenses open up a number of opportunities for practices. So I'd like to talk to you about how you see this product fitting into your practice.
Steve, one of the issues that occurs when trying to find a solution for a patient, you know, requiring a multifocal toric lens is telling some patients that there is not really a great option for them. And now there is. It is just amazing that almost every patient in the category will be able to take advantage of these incredible lenses. I enjoy informing patients of all the new possibilities. Patients with higher RXs and higher sil ranges generally prefer contacts to glasses. And now these patients can also have a multifocal option. I would use these lenses even for pre-presbyopic patients with eye strain when they're on computers. Those that have lower cell powers and don't want to wear glasses, it fits and it fits well.
So, absolutely. And we believe in treating the individual, not the condition. While patients may have both presbyopia and astigmatism through their refractions, although their refractions may be similar, their visual demands can vastly be different. And this lens allows us to expand our ability to help these patients achieve their optimal vision. Additionally, it's important to note that one size doesn't fit all. And so having the vast parameters within the Biofinity multifocal toric, we can fit early in pre-presbyopes in the D lens, and then the distance near design allows us to really customize the lens to the visual needs of the patient so we can give them their optimal vision.
Great, thank you. So next question I have for you is, some practitioners may feel it is intimidating to fit a toric multifocal lens. So do you have any advice on who you think is the best patient for this lens?
Thanks, Steve. I have never, ever heard a patient tell me that they love their reading glasses. Never. Not one patient has ever told me that. So many existing lens wearers want a better option. Patients wearing toric lenses that are presbyopic don't want to use reading glasses. There are patients that are tired of glasses, hate their readers, are sports enthusiasts, athletes, and multitaskers. I don't think we should stop there. Ideal patients are what you make of them. I can't remember the last time I used monovision as an option or even prescribed a lined bifocal, for their spectacle lenses. I feel that by keeping an open mind and after explaining adaptation to multifocal contacts, almost every patient should be made aware of this lens and be given the option to try it. Additionally, it's hard to say who is the best candidate for this lens because the parameter range means that almost no one is left out. One particular group is my parents' generation, the baby boomers. When you consider the utilization of toric multifocal posterior chamber intraocular lenses for cataract patients, this group will clearly embrace new technology. They are vibrant and young at heart, and no one likes getting older. Presbyopia is a sign of aging, and if you can give an option to a 45-year-old, you should also be willing to give that same option to a 65 or 75-year-old. I love happy patients, and making them feel young is a huge part of that. I'm still smiling thinking about it. Thank you, CooperVision, for giving me this tool, and that not just makes my patients happy, it gives me great satisfaction and joy as well.
I love that. There's never a better feeling than when the patient's happy. It doesn't matter what their age is or how many candles on their birthday cake. Really for us, the ideal patient, other than qualifying characteristics of being presbyopic and having astigmatism, I think the ideal patient comes after a discussion of the patient's visual needs. This is where we get into the practice of the art of medicine and not just treating the condition. And like Josh said, it's really one of the most enjoyable aspects of being an OD, when you can help solve a patient's vision for their specific visual needs. Going back to Josh's analogy of running, having the different parameters and the different add powers and the distance near design with the Biofinity multifocal toric is like having a whole quiver of different running shoes. And depending on if you're doing a sprint, if you're running on a track, if you're running that marathon at the end of an Ironman or trail running, having all the different options really helps you customize the needs for the patient.
I love hearing both of your excitement. Thank you again for joining us here today. We're really excited about giving this lens to every practitioner in the United States. All right, so that's all we have for you today as we conclude the third chapter in our three-part webinar on Biofinity toric multifocal. Thank you so much for listening. As I said before, Biofinity toric multifocal is now available to all practitioners in the US, and we can't wait to hear your feedback. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.